Welcome to another high value conversation. This morning we're going to be talking about writing that connects, whether it's journalism, magazines, books, posts, right? Even your detailed descriptions, just writing that connects. My good friend Okla Jones is going to be here. He's a writer for several publications, including Essence Magazine. So I'm going to invite him in right now. Here we'll get to go. And if you have questions, even now or later as you're watching this video, put them in the comments, and we'll be able to answer them for you because we love being able to interact with the audience. Okla, what's up, my brother? Round two.
Round
Good
two,
morning. Good
round
morning.
two,
Good morning,
round
man. How
two.
are you? Oh man,
I'm
wonderful.
good,
Thank you
brother. How
for
about
being
yourself,
here,
man?
and thank you to everyone who's waking up to be here with us this morning. I think this morning a great topic is going to be able to be writing that connects. And you know me, I like to dive right into it with a good question right in the beginning for those who can't stay long. Tell me this: what do you feel like is the most important thing to make sure that your writing connects with your readers?
Uh, Coming from an emotional place and a place of experience as well too. I think it's easier to connect with the reader when you're coming from a personal experience that they can relate to, in my
So how do
opinion.
you flesh that out? Like, how do you make sure that you put that into the right words?
Really, it's kind of, and I tell you from my perspective, when I write, sometimes I just jot down a whole bunch of stuff, my thoughts and all that stuff. I put it on paper, and then out of these particular thoughts, a story may come out of it, or a topic, or something I've been reading, or something that's been on my mind and everything. And I know just with everything, everybody has an opinion on things too. So especially if it's something that may be like water cooler conversation or something evergreen or something, current events, my particular perspective, I know that someone else may have that same perspective, or if not, they have a different perspective, which will
So
create conversation as well
you
too.
try to
You know,
get inside like kind of like your reader's mind or like their life and kind of jump in conversations you feel like they will have or start conversations that they probably can have off of your reading.
both, both, because a lot of times too, I actually have more engaging conversations when people disagree with my point, or people may not relate to what I'm saying, or may not know where I'm coming from too. Because a lot of times, and just kind of with this cancel culture thing that we got going on today, it's like it's cool to disagree with somebody, like amicably. A lot of times if you share a different viewpoint, a person wants to villainize you, it don't have to be like that. Like there are people that can disagree and then you can just have a conversation about disagreement and still be cool afterwards too. But I actually have more engaging conversations
Nah,
with people
you
that don't agree with me.
it's kind of like barbershop conversation. Like you can have it, but not be argumentative. You can have both. Like you can have a little
Right.
MJ LeBron conversation, so you can make a point, but you like having it to where it sparks some type of emotion. Is what you're saying. So I agree with
Yes,
you
sir.
because I know when I was reading Stay Broke, I really wanted to take in consideration my audience. I had listened and read to a lot of financial books myself, and the only way they kept my attention was that I knew I needed to get the information. They weren't holding my attention because it was so well written or there was a good story. But I knew that my reader, I needed them to stay there and get the financial information I was giving them. So that's why Read Me or Stay Broke is a novel and an educational book. I was like the story will carry you through the knowledge. You know what I mean?
So tell me this though, man. We kind of briefly talked about this last time, but like, why did you actually write the book? Like, what was your reason for even
I
wanting to
felt
put that
like it
information
was
and knowledge out, man?
disrespectful that it was so easy to understand financial information, but no one was teaching it to us. Like I, I was like, how can I share what I'm learning in a way that it can keep going and I could reach a lot of people? So you would assume that that would be a video or a YouTube video or a viral or something like that, but those could get deleted, is what I recognize. You know what I mean? Even though they might go fast or spread fast, those get deleted. They got books from, thousands of years ago that you still could find, Library of Congress or, whatever. So I was like, if I put this in a book, it can go to a lot of people. It can get passed down to other people as well as, you know, it kind of be indestructible. And that's why I made it a hard cover instead of a paperback. I wanted to feel like this is important, you know? And that was kind of what made me write it, was that I wanted to be able to share information with people in a way that would keep going and was seemingly kind of indestructible.
And it's funny too, man. I'm gonna tell you this too. Like you wrote me some, the book that you sent me. You wrote me some kind words on that front page too, man. Like whenever I'm, you know, feeling down on myself or feeling, you know, that I might not be reaching my goal, I read that, man. Like it get me through it, bro. So I
Oh, wow. Are you
appreciate the
talking about
words too,
when
man.
I write to
Like it
you,
really
when I
do.
signed it?
Yeah, yeah,
Dang,
yeah,
bro,
yeah,
from the
yeah.
heart, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, man, because it's some powerful shit, you know, and it's like when you really know somebody, you can give them better advice than if you just, you know, you meet somebody on the street and you know say, yeah, well, you should do this or do that, or you're this type of person, you know what I'm saying? So you actually know me personally. So
You
yeah, I
my
want to say I
you my
appreciate
guy,
that,
bro.
bro,
And
for
what's
real, for
crazy
real.
is like, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I wasn't like Mr. Writing. You know,
Hmm.
I became an author through that book. Well, actually, I was in two other books before that, which I wrote a chapter in each one of those books. I was asked to collaborate in those books, but Read Real Estate Broke was my full on baby, like my book, and I can't even say really that those other chapters got me prepared for Read Real Estate Broke, because I just had to tell a kind of a biography, like an autobiography story that connected with the overall theme of the book. But Read Real Estate Broke was just one of those things where, you know, it's like one of some artist's greatest album or something. You know, where did that come from? You know, like when people are like Terminator One is, you know, Terminator Two is never as good as Terminator One. Like where did that come from? It's like an original idea. Or like all these movies now that are remakes, they're remakes because of that first thing that
Hmm.
like no one could have ever thought of. You know, that's how I feel about Read Real Estate Broke. I became an author writing that book. You know, I learned the process. You know, and that'd be a good thing. We can kind of go through a little more process with people here in a second. But um, what do you feel like made you start even doing more writing, like communicating that way?
So for me, you know, I'm not the biggest talker, anything like that. I never, you know, I don't really say like much. So I like to convey my emotions and my thoughts through my words. And I kind of was always like that too. Uh, and you know, like when I majored in history in college and all that stuff, we did a lot of writing, a lot of papers, a lot of, you know, I was always just good at writing. You know, I always just respected the craft and everything like that, and I enjoyed doing it. It was better than talking to me sometimes too. And then when I knew that I really wanted to do was when I was doing a bunch of writing assignments for like free, and I had been doing it for like a long time. You know, it's just you know, similar to you, you know, when you have these like hard copy books you can pass down and everything, you know, I remember growing up, you know, reading articles in Time magazines from the like reputable journalists, stuff like that, that you can pass down and everything like that, and just, you know, seeing it on paper and, you know, reading books from like James Baldwin and, you know, Alex Haley and stuff like that. It's a different feeling that you get when you are reading things from a book, you know, or a magazine or something that, you know, that's physical, that can be passed down too. And I just kind of, you know, always, or when I read like The Source, the Double XL, you see, you know, Elliot Wilson's feature and all that stuff, you know, like album reviews, like things like that. I just always thought that was really cool. And that's something that you can't really take away
I
from someone
like that. I
too, you
like
know.
that. And so that's like your essence of where your love for being able to write, or your desire to write, all that kind of automatically comes from. I know we kind of spoke to your origin last time about, you know, how you started writing for magazines and stuff like that, but and you used to do it kind of like for free. But like, what made you start? Like where was the I'm gonna write for this thing about this thing for free just because I'm feeling it? Where was that at?
So it started in 2010 when I moved back to New Orleans after I graduated from college. I got involved with a radio station in New Orleans. Shout out to DJ Ali B. And the original thing was I was supposed to run the day-to-day operations for the website. You know, so it's more like um, monitoring the website, you know, doing updates, stuff like that. And I'm not even a web guy and all that stuff though. It was just like minor stuff and everything. And then um, she started having me cover concert events and all that stuff and doing write-ups on like concerts and events that was happening around the city. And then what really popped it off was when she asked me to start doing like album reviews, you know, long form album reviews when albums would come out. And that's what kind of, so 2010 was what kind of propelled my writing journey when I started doing these album reviews, and like people would like hit me up, be like, yo, you know, I didn't even hear this person at first. Now I want to hear the album, or, you know, I didn't like this person. I want to, you know, stuff like that. And just getting that feedback from people, it kind of sparked that fire in me to kind of write. And then I kind of branched off from music to like art and other things from that. But it originally started from, you know, just my music on the website, doing event coverage and uh, album reviews, and it just
Love it. I
blossomed
love it.
from
So let me
there.
ask you this: in doing those kind of articles, you said earlier that you kind of like brainstorm, let ideas flow, and things like that. So how do you know what do you keep in and what do you take out? How do you like are able to condense it?
So for me, it's like for like say if I'm interviewing you, before I even interview you, like for this conversation we're having now, you have a topic or you have a overall theme of what you want this conversation to be about, right? So if you're talking to me, I might record everything you're saying, and I take out the pieces that's pertinent to the topic at hand, you know, to what we're talking about. So, you know, of course, you want to keep things like maybe, you know, your journey, your life story, stuff like that, but you kind of want to stay within theme about what the conversation is at hand. So when we discuss things that's part of my overall theme, I make sure like I take that out, you know, like I make sure like I keep that to the side and everything. And then I write around what you're saying, you know. So the things that I choose, I put those quotes in the article, and then I kind of write around what you're saying, and that's what I do for an interview. If I'm doing like a particular story too, I try to make sure I stay true to the facts and everything like that. I make sure everything like it makes sense, that it's in chronological order too. Um, yeah, I just make sure you want to give the reader the sense that you're there without them being there. So you want to give people as much information as possible. Um, you know, like that there. And I try to do that in everything I write. Like when I do album reviews or do, you know, art gallery exhibitions and stuff like that. Like you want to make sure you're giving the reader that experience of being there. Or if you're writing a book, you want to take them into your mind as if they were sitting next to you and all that stuff. You just want to give them as much information as possible for the
I
best
like that
experience when
concept
they're reading
of
your work.
like taking them there, making sure that they're there. Um, Man, it's such a powerful um concept, especially when you talk about writing that connects, you know, like being able to want or taking the care to mentally be the audience member before you start to write from you to them, you know? Like I think that's such a deep principle of the success. Hi. Come here, come here, come here.
Mm. So I got another question for you too, man. Did you ever think like, you know, just you kind of going back to like you know, your high school days, college days and everything. Did you ever think that you would actually be an author? You know what I'm
Um,
saying, when you were growing up?
no, yeah, that's wrong, man.
What's up,
He just
Roman?
woke up. Come back. No, I never thought that I'd be an author growing up. What? Come here. You just woke up? All right, come here. You want to sit up here by daddy? All right, come on. All right. In high school, no. I mean, as a matter of fact, I used to write my papers that I had to write for school at lunchtime in the cafeteria. I mean, not in the cafeteria, in the library.
What you used to get
I used to
on?
get
Like what
good
you used to get on
grades.
the papers
You know, I was honest, bro. So, like, the thing about
when you
me
were there?
is
Oh,
I think a long time, then I work a short time, right?
mm,
So
okay.
I will conceptualize something for a month to do the week of work because I try to let all
Mm,
my ideas flow into it before I start to make boundaries and cut stuff off. Like doing Read, Stay Broke, there's a bunch of times where I can say probably the hardest part of writing a book is rereading it yourself, knowing everything that's going to happen, because because you have to be
Why?
because the first time you're writing it, everything is happening fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like you're creating it as you're going. Like the story is coming out of you as it's occurring, and then you're like changing stuff, so it's like this. It's like exciting because you don't know where it's going. It's like watching a movie for the first time, right? And watching it the second time, like you
Okay.
enjoying it because you know you enjoyed it, but you know it's gonna happen, so it still doesn't feel like the first time. But you enjoy it, so you can do it again. So like with the book, being on a mission and reading it like the second and third time, because you got to keep going through it and making sure you don't have errors, and it's in sequence, and it's in order, and you didn't say something in the end that contradicted something in the beginning. And then if you have an idea in the end, you got to go make it make sense from the beginning, so there's like times in the book where I had a way that it was going in my mind all the way, and then I got like closer to the end, and I was like, ooh, but I want this to happen now. Okay, but I gotta go make the stuff line up to make that happen, and to find the ways to insert that. So then that would make it fun again. You know what I mean? Because like I'm going back to the beginning and stuff. But no, I didn't think in high school that I would be an author, because I wasn't a big writer. Like I said, I became an author through writing this book, because it was, to be real, man, it was necessary. The book was necessary. Like it's not even of me, like I was given the purpose to put financial information in a novel that will hold your attention, so that people could see both sides and be able to be like, this is where I am, this is what it's like, and comprehend it. Like God took somebody who had lived all the way till they were 25, knowing none of this stuff, going to college, going to investor meetings and stuff, learn these things, and then I was able to have both sides of the conversation, where most of the times the books that I was reading were coming from a very bougie position, which was, I know this, it makes sense, can't you see how important it is? And that would make the book dry and boring, because it was more of a grandstand than an educational piece of material. Whereas I had, like you said, the heart and the feeling of the reader automatically in me. So I could write for the reader because I had lived the life of the reader. Still sleepy? You pull it on? You pull it on? Yeah. You want to watch Batman? Oh, Spaceman? All right, go. Get your purple. Bring me purple.
Daddy
Nah.
duties never stop,
It
huh?
actually makes everything better, because it's authentic. You know what I mean?
So let me ask you a question too, man. Like, so since you put out a staple, like, do you have an idea of maybe an
So I
impetus for
do
like
have
another
another book
book?
in mind that I want to go over. Hold on one second. Um, but let me ask you right quick to answer something for the audience while I put something on for him, right? So if you could kind of go over maybe like I know you talk about grammatically or chronologically, or just like putting an article together. How do you like so much, like you said, connect with the audience, and you also think about putting them in your experience? How do you really feel like your system for putting them in your shoes or making them feel like they're there? What do you do to make sure you make them feel like they're there?
So for me, I just try to give them the most genuine experience possible. You know, like if I am, again, going back to interviewing a person, interviewing you, I would, I want to know about you before I even like cut the camera on or cut, cut record on. I want to know about your life story, what kind of got you to where you're at. Maybe not the whole story, but just in terms of maybe your career, or maybe what I'm trying to touch upon. I try to do the best to get that type of information out. And that's even before, the interview. That's before anything. I have a separate interview to get that information. Um, then also I want to get the theme of what I'm trying to write about too, and I make sure that's conveyed in the work as well too. So let's say we talk about, I'm talking to you and I want to talk about real estate investing. So I want to, get the information out about what got you to where you are, you know, maybe what the first moment was when you began real estate. What's your main goal? What are you trying to, you know, get out of it? What are you trying to give to the people and everything like that? And also, so you want to make sure too, it's also good to not have articles that's too long. One thing I've learned is that, you know, like, no disrespect to people, but a lot of, especially with the generation now,
Yeah.
people have shorter attention spans, but it's actually a different demographic too. The people that actually read and people that listen to podcasts, their attention span is actually longer than, you know, your normal people and all that stuff too. So depending on what the topic is at hand, you can kind of go longer, you know, than certain things and all that. But you want to make sure you're not rushing your articles either, too, because the experienced reader can tell that as well too. You know, but again, you know, to give people that experience that they're there, you want to give them as much information as possible, and you want to, you know, give your perspective too, but don't inject that individual perspective too much because there are other people reading. So you want to be unique in your writing style, but in terms of, you know, like unless it's an opinion piece, you don't want to inject too much of your opinion into that particular article too, because it's, you know, it'll uh turn some readers off, and then you might not be giving the correct information because the more
Yeah.
opinion you put in, the less
No,
fact
I definitely.
is in there a lot of times too. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you want to make sure you're genuine and make sure you give the most information possible. And it's about getting the information prior to even talking to you. I think that's actually the most important thing because then I kind of know where I want to go and what questions to ask and all that stuff. You know, a lot of times people don't really do research on what they're writing about before they write about it. You know, you want to just like I have a whole bunch of information about what I want to write about before, you know, pen gets to paper or, you know, hands get to typing and all that stuff too. So it's about preparation and about knowing what you're writing about
It
before you
reminds
even,
me of
you know,
the
really
lines
start
that
writing about it too.
people use in a movie when the bad guy's talking to the good guy, and the bad guy's like, "Oh, your name is so and so, and you've been here, and you've done this, and you've gone there," and they're like, "Oh, you do your homework," you know, like. Yeah, yeah.
Reputation
You know,
precedes
type
itself.
of
Like, yeah,
situation. So I like what you're saying there, and I also feel like,
yeah.
man, the thing that I want people to realize, especially if you want to be a writer or if you enjoy writing, um, I think that, like you're saying, the most important thing is being able to find a way to convey your feelings without your opinion, unless your opinion is informing them how to enjoy the feelings or experience the feelings, instead of trying to create an opinion that goes with yours. There's a very like thin line right there, right? It's like I'm I'm telling you my opinion
For sure.
so that it can help you feel how I feel right now, but at the same time, right short of making it be your opinion too, is like right there. It's kind of like what you described, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little, it's right there. Like it's like one of the things you can only get in an interview with like an expert, where they're like, here's that special sauce. So like, this is how you dribble the ball the right way, Um, so to answer your question about writing, I do have a new book that I'm writing, and it's about thinking. To me, there's a difference between thinking and having thoughts, and we're not really taught how to deliberately think. Um, and I've used that to accomplish a lot of things in my life. And so the book I'm writing now is teaching thought patterns and ways to be able to use your brain to accomplish a lot of the things that you want to accomplish. It's kind of like a secret hidden superpower that we're not really given access to.
Hmm. That's interesting, man. So where did that idea come from? Because that's actually just even hearing you say that's a unique theme for a
For
book
me,
too. Like, how
it's
did that come
about
about?
really trying to help people get to well-being and financial success. And so I feel like financial success has a formula. It has like a systematic way that it's there. But I also think that well-being or feeling positive or happy has a formula as well. And I think it comes from being yourself or being who you want to be and accomplishing goals. And I call it
Mm-hmm.
self-construction. So deliberately making the person that you want to be and self-improving along the lines of the skill sets that you want to have. And I think that we're not really taught that in psychology when we're in class or even in high school. Like, you know, a lot of people don't have access to um, the brain, right? We have a brain, we use it all the time, we think it all the time, we have thoughts all the time, but we're kind of given this CSI model of like how the brain works, where it's like you observe people who are having like uncontrollable behaviors because that's just how their brain is. When in reality, our brains operate like our heart and our lungs, right? If you have it operates like our lungs, not our heart, but we have a perception that it operates like our heart, right? So your heart, if you run fast, it'll beat harder, but then you can't like be like slow down, right? You can't slow it down, but it also will beat
Mm-hmm.
without you needing to say beat, 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 right? So it's an involuntary muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Your lungs are also an involuntary muscle, right? You don't have to say inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. But at any moment you could, right? So our brains work
Mm-hmm.
like our lungs, not our heart, right? They don't need you to constantly be like think, 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 think to do a lot of the behaviors in your life. But if you stop and you deliberately think about things, you can accomplish a lot of stuff, you know, being deliberate in your thought processes. And you can also improve them very good. Like the same way you can do cardio to get more lung capacity, deliberately reading something, deliberately learning something on purpose, saying this is a skill set that I want to acquire, and then practicing and repeating until your brain and mind have that skill set, can be accomplished for a lot of things that we don't realize, as far as like real estate, making money, being able to, like you said, be a better writer, be a better speaker. There are skills that you don't have that you don't have to stop with, I'm not good at that. Like if you ask somebody to play the piano right now and they say, oh yeah, I'm not good at that, the real answer is I haven't really tried. You know what I mean? So this thing,
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of where the impetus for that book about thinking and the brain comes from.
Mark Jackson, the self-help guru. Um, so, and that's interesting you say that, man, about not knowing how to do something, or like you talked about the piano. So, have you ever got to a point in your, writing career, or even just your, your um, financial advising? How do you get to a point where, like, okay, I'm good enough at this particular thing, or I'm knowledgeable enough at this particular thing to give that information to other people? Like, how do you, when you come to that realization, like, I'm qualified, to do
Um,
this?
really, honestly, you start sharing before that happens. Um, I'm
Mm-hmm.
of the mind of I start sharing what I'm learning while I'm learning it. So I never reach a point where I'm like, I'm so good that now I'm good enough to tell people. That never occurred to me. I started learning things that I found interesting, and as soon as I started learning them, I just started telling other people from my comprehension of it at the moment. So that's kind of where I am, right? Like, I know you said self-help guru, but that's not really like kind of where I like that's what people imagine when they imagine someone who's supposed to be able to share information with others, right? And so if you look at nowadays, it's not
Mm-hmm.
like that, right? Nowadays, people can find out one thing and they're gonna make a TikTok about it like they're expert on that whole thing, right? But I am cool with it
Right.
because I feel like they're just sharing something that they found out with people that follow them. Like, why hold it for a long time before you say something, right? Like, I was finished writing Read Me or Stay Broke before I could even implement some of the things that I was teaching, because I didn't need to have done them to be able to explain them in the sequence, because it was hardcore facts. It was like, you don't need me to be good at it. This person, that person, this person, the first millionaire ever in America was a millionaire in real estate investing, right? So I'm just like,
Right.
I comprehend what he's doing. You may never have access to what he's doing at all. So I'm gonna tell you what he's doing based on our comprehension level, because I used to be over here with you, you know. And I kind of
Mm-hmm.
just do the same thing now. Like when it comes to thinking, I'm not trying to tell anybody how they should think. That's not the point. The point is, this is how the brain works that no one probably ever told you. You know, it's like I could put somebody in a car right now, and like there's so many things about that car that you don't need to know just to drive. You know what I mean? You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to know how to use the windows, cut the lights on, cut the radio on, like cut the air on, warm the seats. You don't need to know all those functions to just steer, hit the gas, hit the brake, put it in gear. But you can have a more comfortable ride if I showed you how to use all these things in here. And that's kind of where I am. Like, I've been exposed to certain, you know, things about how the human brain works, and we all have one. So as I've tested out some of the things I've read and learned through my brain research and test them in real time and had success with them, I'm just like, well, did you know that we can do this? Did you know that we're able to do this? Is kind of what I'm sharing.
And I'm glad you have that mind state too, because you always were like that too, man. Just always bringing up other people and everything. I think that's important, you know, not just for you to have it, but for a lot of us, especially, you know, us, our people too, and all that stuff, you know, because that crabs in the barrel mentality that really is real at times. So, you know, we get to a certain financial position, a particular position of status, and instead of, you know, reaching back, they want to hoard the information, all that stuff, you know, for themselves and everything. And then us as a people, a community, we're not able to grow because of that. So, you know, like, I'm glad you have that state of mind. And you always did. So, you know, from the time I remember you was smaller too, you was always about, you know, giving
Man,
information
I
for others
appreciate
too.
it.
So
I heard Dick
I dig that.
Gregory say a cool line in one of, like, I was on, you know, on social media. Yes?
I want apple juice.
You want some apple juice?
Ah.
I thought you were watching Toy Story. Come here. So, all right, go sit down. I'm gonna get it for you. Go wait. Go wait. Go wait. Wait. Here, come here. Come here. So I heard Dick Gregory say a good line that goes along with what you're saying right quick is shh, wait. You know, you talk about crabs in a bucket. Want some water? You talking about crabs in a barrel. He said it's not the crabs that are that way. He said they're in the water. It's the water that makes them crabs in the barrel. So you're talking about like iron bond, huh?
Break that down, man. Oh, yeah, environment.
Said?
Okay, I got you. Got you.
Yeah,
Your environment,
yeah.
like,
So
that
like
was your
that's what you
answer?
were saying in general. Like, I feel you and I appreciate your compliment, but I was just talking about how you saying, like, you know, a lot of times there's an unnecessary competitiveness, right? That's what I think I like kind of hit upon was that there was you step over the light. Okay, good job. There was an unnecessary competitiveness, and I think that our environment makes us sometimes unnecessarily competitive. And I think that what I learned and wrote in Read When Stay Broke and what I'm learning about the mind and writing in my book about thinking is that with these two ways of being, I remove competition. Because when I know the things that I know financially, really no one can get in my way and stop me, so I don't have to feel combative with anyone else as I'm trying to accomplish it. And same thing with the thinking. If I can solve my problems through self-improvement and self-development, then how can you prevent me from getting the things I want to get? You know what I mean?
Right.
It kind of removes competition.
I mean, so, but in that too, like, what removing competition, like, so let's talk
Okay.
about that, about removing competition. Why is that always you talk about environments too, like, why do you think that's even a thing? You know, why is it?
But
Because, you
hold
know,
on,
we talked
you
about
tell
this
me why you think it's a thing,
last
and I'm gonna
time.
come right back after I sit him down.
So I can tell you, like, when I first met you, when I was saying last time that when I first met you, I didn't initially like you. You know, there's always this kind of you know, you meet somebody and, you know, they may be as good as you in the sport, or, you know, they might be as popular or have the same amount of money, whatever. You know, there's always this kind of like line against line mentality, kind of, you know, like, you know, you want to show this other line
That's how you
that you're better than them, you know what
that's
I'm
how you
saying?
felt about
And
us
I
in the
remember,
beginning.
like, when I first, no, no, it wasn't particularly that, but it's just when I first met, like, I ain't really care for you. I don't want to say I ain't like you, I just didn't care for you. I say that, you know, I ain't care for you. But I remember again, but I didn't know you. You know, like, I didn't know you. You were just, you know, and you wasn't a new dude because you always lived this. I had just met you, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know, who is this cat and all that. So and I remember the time when I just happened to come outside. You was already outside, wasn't nobody out there. We kicked it that day and we just been cool ever since. But it's kind of that, not necessarily you can be competitive and not be, I guess, at odds. You can, use the iron sharpens iron mentality too. Like I like being around people that's smarter than me. I like being around people that may be more financially stable than me. I like being around people that, may be more ambitious than me because it pushes me to reach that level too. But sometimes people get intimidated by that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see a person that's quote unquote doing better, like they're doing better than you in life and all that stuff when, I feel like there's no such thing as that because a person may be more successful in one avenue of life than you are, but you may be doing, so just even the comparison, I try not to do that anymore, to comparing yourself to another person because you don't know what they're going through, you don't know their journey and all that stuff. And as long as you're better than who you were previously, I feel like that's a win. You know what I'm saying? But competition, I feel like that's not always bad either. I think that makes you better as long as you're able to learn from that, that competition and not make it a
Yeah, no, I
jealousy,
don't
envious
feel
thing. You know what
like
I'm
you
saying?
can remove competition, and I don't feel like competition is a bad thing. I think what I'm describing, or what I was describing more, is like it takes the inferiority out of competing when you know how to accomplish something regardless whether you have a competitor, right? So
Mm.
Kobe's attitude was, I know I'm going to be able to probably beat you just because of my self-work, right? Like how much I've been practicing raises my confidence to a level to where I feel like you probably haven't been practicing as much as I have. And even if you have, that doesn't negate the practice that I've had. So that's where my confidence comes from in this competition. And then in this competition is only where I can enjoy my practice, right?
Hmm.
So I like, I mean, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
very I'm a very competitive person, but I'm not competitive to the other people. I'm competitive towards the thing because that's where I can enjoy who I am, right? Like when I'm trying to become a drum major in high school, my whole attitude was just like, y'all better figure out who the other three of y'all gonna be. You know, that's just how it was. And then even now, when I do things now, I'm actually kind of free of it now because like, all right, me and a person will compete for a piece of property. If he's willing to take a smaller amount of profit for that property, did I really lose to him, even though we both was going for the same thing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when I say removing competition, I feel like for some people, they're not built over time in the way that maybe a me or a you or just, people who even hire, everyone's not built the same. But I do think that the compare the competitive nature of how we're supposed to live is unhealthy, right? It's not um natural to be like overly saturated with others' success. I think is what I'm talking about, right? Like in society, it's like here's the jewelry, here's this person's rich, that person's rich, this is the richest person in the world. Da, da, da. Who said money was supposed to be the thing you were supposed to be successful by? That's how I look at it. I understand money just for a purely survival understanding, right? Like it's a mandatory. Like when I look at the brain and money, I'm like I have to deal with these two things to be successful. I cannot refuse to give them my time, otherwise I'm just shooting myself in the foot. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
then as I kept getting into them, they actually were interesting to me, and then it helps me even more being good at them, right? And so that's where I'm at with both of those things. And I think the more I got good at both of those, the more I felt like who really gonna stop me from getting smarter and who will stop me from doing what I've learned. Then now, am I really competing or am I just in, like you said, a natural state where I can't have everything, but I really pretty much can't be kept from the things I want that someone else doesn't already own, you know?
So what's your definition of success, man? Like what do you, Mark Jackson, gauge success as?
Uh, I gain success as feeling good about yourself from no other reason but your own definition. Yeah,
All right.
that's like success should be I like where I'm at, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I determine what is important about me. And then from there, I can do the rest of the stuff because I have that solid inner peace, right? So I think for me, success is, like I just said, being able to say, I'm becoming the person I want to become. I'm solving the problems that I used to have before I decided to be this way, but I don't let those problems make me feel like I'm a certain type of person. It don't make me feel like I didn't do something that I should have done. I'm not going to use hindsight bias to judge myself. I'm just heading in the direction that I want to head in now, and I'm patient enough with myself to realize that I can get there at my own speed, and I don't have to disrespect myself by comparing myself to anybody else. Right? I'm me. Right? People might have done stuff to me. I might have made bad choices. I didn't know the things I know now. And at least I'm going now in a way that I feel good every day because I'm in charge now. I think that's really just like the success, is deliberate self improvement and then being able to kind of keep back all the other things that stop you. So that's my personal definition. What do I think? I can tell you like this: what I think the actual things you have to do to feel that way, though, without being as informed as I am, is I do feel like you have to have financial security and happiness. I think these are the two things that will make other people or anybody feel really successful: financial security and happiness. And I feel like happiness comes from truly feeling like you are who you want to be, not have to be. You're doing what you want to do, not have to do. And I feel like financial security allows you to be in that space because without financial security, you wind up doing a lot of things you don't want to do, having to do a lot of stuff you don't feel like doing because the society or the environment or capitalism makes it to where in order to have these things to
Right.
go this place to do this thing you have to have a certain amount of money and then you have to go somewhere where you can actually get that to A, survive, B, have more than survival. So if you learn this system, it puts you in that position. Is that
Perfect. No, it's perfect answer. Perfect, man.
how do you feel about that? I mean, I know you said perfect, but what do you think about the way you broke it down?
Um, the only thing is, I was reading this book, Man's Search for Meaning
Victor Franklin.
by Viktor Frankl, and in it, there's a passage in the book, and he says that a lot of times, most times, we we want to know what the meaning of life is, like what's the meaning of life and all that stuff. And a lot of times, we erroneously ask life this question when it's the question life should be asking us. Because a person's meaning or their
Mm-hmm.
quest is specific to that person. You know what I'm saying? So when you kind of talked about like happiness, I think happiness is a difficult thing because a lot. I know me personally, I used to look at happiness as a goal or a destination, not necessarily a journey. There's some days where I won't be happy, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying? There are some days I will be happy. It's not just this all-encompassing fear. Just like success is, I feel sometimes. It's not this
Mm-hmm.
all-encompassing feeling that,
Mm-hmm.
once I get to it, I'm there. I don't have to go nowhere no more. You know what I'm saying? So that's the only thing, just that happiness is like just doing the best. For me, when I'm happy is when I'm satisfied with who I am
Yeah.
and what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like satisfaction, really. You know what I mean? But you want to, when you talked about like thin lines earlier too, it's good to be satisfied. You don't want to get content though. Whereas though you get stagnant, you don't, want to better yourself or want to move to a different position too. So it's just happiness is an everyday ongoing journey for me. And success again to the point, so I think that's
No, sure.
subjective too, because what one person might deem successful, I might be looking like, yo, Mark could be doing a lot more. Mark, he got this and all that stuff. But if you're happy with what you're doing and where you are, you know what I'm saying, sometimes success is like it's a weird thing, man. But as long as you're happy with what you're doing and who you're around, and you know, taking care of the things you need to take care of. And I like how you said financial security too. I think that's really important in terms of success. I feel like it's not the only thing in just growing up where we came from and just, you know, being a man and all that stuff. The money thing was something that was put like, that's how you're successful. You got to get money, get money and get women. You know what I'm saying? That's the gauge of success and all that stuff. And that's something we have to break out of that too, because I think it's good to have money too, but you know, you don't have to have money to excess. You know, are you paying your bills? Are you take care of your family? You know, are you able to do the things that you need to do? I think for me, that's financial security. Like you said, it doesn't have to be, you know, wealth, quote unquote. And then, you know, it's just being happy with yourself, happy with your situation, happy with the people around you.
I agree. I
To
feel
me, it's
like
successful.
I got a term I use when I'm teaching is rich is relative. Rich is relative. Like I
Right.
don't need to be a billionaire to know I'm rich. Like, and what's crazy is what people don't. My grandma used to have a saying. She said, "Don't worry about what other people got because you don't know how they got it." Right. And so I use an example in my classes sometimes where I show a guy who has like a regular car, a regular house, right, and a regular job, and then I show a person with a mansion, a luxury vehicle, and on vacation, and I'm like, who has more money? Right. And they'll be like, obviously the guy with the luxury vehicle. Right. But then I show them net worth. Right. Right. Net worth, what this person has versus what this person owes. And the guy with the regular car, the regular house, and who's just chilling at his house watching a basketball game, has $300,000 in savings. His car's paid off, his house is paid off, and so he's just chilling. Meanwhile, this dude owes $300,000 just on the house, $50,000 on the car, and he swiped his credit card for the vacation. So he's 400 grand in the hole, right? But he looks richer than this guy, and that's the outside view, you know. So that's what I mean when rich is relative. I don't think financial security is what we think it is sometimes, you know. It's not having so much that you can compare. It's having enough to where the things that you want are not in jeopardy every month. if you don't have some more, you know what I mean? And I think if you look at a lot of these successful people, not all of them, but some, you know, examples, you know, maybe like a J. Cole or even like a Waka Flocka Flame, for an example, people that made money and then once they got the money, their mind expanded past what they had normally known, right? I think that's kind of the sweet spot where you have enough money where financial security is not enough money to show you got money. It's enough money to where you don't have a fearful attitude every month of what's going to happen, and you're able to go and explore more things like some yoga, your mind, your environment. You take trips not because you want to Instagram them and snap them. You're taking a trip because you never got to have that type of relief for them for a week. You know, go ahead.
No, I was listening. I was saying,
and just to go back to success again, like you say, it's a slippery slope, but I've tried my hardest to try and figure out and define it because I try to help people reach it. You know, that's kind of what I am, like pretty much like a success consultant, you know. And growth is a word I really want to inject into this conversation, right? Like growth is where I think we can find happiness because Viktor Frankl, right? Remember you was talking about the CDs that I had, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that you listened to when we were younger and stuff like that. Remember that? That's why I first discovered Viktor Frankl, because Stephen Covey talks about when Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, he first discovered how to have his mind be outside of his prison and realized that that was the last of human freedoms. The last of human freedoms is no matter what's happening to you, you still get to choose what you want to think about and see your life and your future and things the way you want to. And by thinking about teaching the experience that he was having in the cell to his future college class, he found so much joy looking back and even writing Man's Search for Meaning when he realized that his thing that helped him survive more than other people who were in the prison with him was he thought and imagined his future. He thought outside of his prison while he was still in the prison. And that's kind of like what they try to talk about in The Secret, you know, books like that and stuff. But, you know, in him teaching teaching me at a young age through Stephen Covey, Viktor Frankl being in that book was that I was able to think more than my circumstance, and I was also able to grow, right? I think growth is tied to success, you know, in a sense of feeling successful. If you're constantly trying to become the person that you want to become, that's where you find a lot of happiness. That's why people say, you know, start with exercise or, you know, self-improvement, self-development, stuff like that. It's not because something's wrong with you, right? Like when I teach self-improvement, I actually use the term self-construction, because as I listened to self-development and self-improvement stuff in the past, it was always, this is what's wrong with you that needs to change. And I feel like that's what always kind of gave people a resistance. My whole approach is get rid of what you want to get rid of, keep what you want to keep, but also be becoming and creating the person you want to be. Deliberately build yourself, self-construct is the way I describe it. And I've had a lot more success with that because people resonate with that concept more of, yeah, like what happened before really isn't my fault. Even if I have some ways I kind of still like, you know, a few of those ways, I'm just going to add on to them until I get, you know, to be who I want to be. But the process, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there's a phrase in there that says the process is more important than the product. So just a minute ago, when you were talking about reaching success or reaching happiness, you'll find that you have more joy on the way than you do at the destination, because, you know, goal achievement is really better for a human being than the goal. The goal lasts a moment, you know. I use an analogy all the time. You go back to when Kevin Durant was on the Warriors, right? What if at the beginning of the season, all the teams got together and the commissioner was just like, yo, I'm going to just give the trophy to the Warriors because they're going to kill y'all, right? And he's like, they're just the champions. So he like hands them the trophy. And I'm like, so what are they now? Right? Or are they the champs? I'm like, okay, but how does it feel? Right? It feels dead. All they really have is a piece of gold with a ball on top. Why? It doesn't have the story. It has no process. It doesn't have the finals. It doesn't have when somebody got injured. It doesn't have 82 games. It doesn't have our camaraderie, our bond, our trip. It doesn't have the journey with it, even though we got the goal. I could give you the goal, but the process is what makes it have its flavor. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's interesting too when you talk about the self construction too, because there was this analogy that I always saw about a lot of times we think that we're inadequate and we have to, you know, grab for things. We need to look at yourself as like a statue, like a block, and you're just chipping away the bullshit. You already are who you need to be. You know, you just need to, you know, chip away some of the bullshit to get to that statue, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's interesting too, that, you know, we always think that we're inadequate at a lot of things when like we have everything we need. We just gotta, you know, hone through all the, you know,
I
like
think
all the BS and
one
find
of
it. You feel me?
the most like mind-blowing things for me as far as like a person was going to college, going to business school, and learning the concept of human capital um, as a resource in business, which is, you know, you're not seen as a human being. You know, you're seen as energy, labor, and a means to get this thing accomplished more than me accomplishing it myself. And then likewise, you look in economics, and in economics, it's an imperfect science because they talk about the rational being. So whenever they're talking about moving supply and demand, right? They talk about humans, but they just say you're a consumer, or like you move the consumer this way, you move the consumer that. So just being the kind of person like that comes where we come from, being real, being chill, like living, like really having real human experience. They're going to college and hearing, you know, the disassociation between humanity and like you're still talking about people, right? That made me kind of have this way of where I realized why we're not taught financial security and why we're not taught the power of our brains. You know what I mean? It's because we can, as a society, a government, a population, a company, I can get more done the more people that aren't trying to become themselves. You know what I mean? Like if I can remove the self-actualization out of a lot of the core curriculum, then you never discover what you fully can be. You just assimilate into all that is, you know. I remember even realizing that the world didn't work on pop culture, right? Like when you're a kid, you go from holiday to holiday at school and event to event. Like you just live in this, you know, perpetual, I don't know, pop culture kind of flow. And then when you start to really step outside, I guess in like the Matrix, but you step outside and you do stuff for yourself and you start to self-develop and you start to self-construct and read and, you know, get empowerment. I remember just reading, like we're not even taught like that. And just getting back to us connecting as writers, the reason why I wrote my book was I realized that, you know, all that I had gained from listening to audiobooks and reading certain books and the empowerment of that knowledge. You know, when you're in school, you're like given a textbook or a novel, but you're not given a book of someone else's like knowledgeable experience and how they accomplish something. And when you do that and you realize that you're like kind of the same person with access to the same kind of resources, all you have to do is apply energy, effort, and intention. It's like, oh my God, you know, like what have I tapped into, you know? And so that, I think being able to learn that we can learn and we don't need a teacher in the front of the room in order to improve ourselves, or we don't need a diploma in order to certify that we have a skill, right? We can self-teach and then we can take action, get result, and those two are just as good, right? Like I'm just as good a teacher as being taught, and this accomplishment and this actual achievement is just as good as that diploma, and it's a repeatable process. That right there is like a skill that I think is just vital, man.
Yeah, man, experience is life's greatest teacher too. And kind of going to what you just said too, man, like the importance of reading, you know, just and I feel like we touched on this last time too, but just, you know, I don't know how long exactly how long you've been doing real estate investing and, you know, financial literacy and everything, but you have years of your knowledge you put into a book that probably would take me maybe 2-3 hours to read. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, you know, that's what I think we need to take more advantage of too, because there's all this knowledge, years and hours of trial and error by this author or this person that created this book or created this article or created this piece, and we can read it in a couple hours and get that same amount of knowledge that they spent. It could be their life's work. You feel what I'm saying? And it's just, there's so many thousands, millions of books on different topics, and we can literally, it's all at our fingertips. You know, not trying to be cliche, but the knowledge for anything, we can find it somewhere too. And I just think that, you know, that's why, you know, people kind of talk about technology. Like I think Google and things like that is great if you use it for the right reasons. In these books, you just got to use it for the right reasons too, you know. So yeah, stressing reading, even though it's the first thing a child is, you know, learns and all that stuff. I think it's not, the importance isn't stressed enough about how important and critical reading is, and, you know, finding these knowledge for yourself too as well too, because again, I think that's a part of growing up is, you know, not necessarily incorporating everything that someone else teaches you, but looking for knowledge and looking for things yourself. I think that's a really important thing
Yeah,
when
and
it
I
comes
agree
to
with you. And
growth,
I think that
you
sometimes
know.
people are like, so there's like some subtle things in here that we have to like get out the way of people's way, right? Because we've felt the benefit. So sometimes when you are not still where people are, and this is goes to connecting with your reader. When you're not where people are, you speak from where you're at, not remembering what it takes to get to where you are, right? So we can talk about this like this because we have the benefit of applied knowledge, right? We've already, you know, talked and read and listened to certain books and then found the benefit. Some people, when you look at time, and you were just talking about short attention spans a little while ago, when you look at time, imagine somebody looking at this book and just thinking about how much time it's going to take them to understand their brain better, right? Where is the cost benefit analysis for them? You know, like I do not know how much that's gonna help me. It don't really interest me. I don't know if it's gonna hold my attention. And then add in the fact that they've never read a non-novel, non-school textbook or like non-required reading book and did it deliberately on purpose, got the information, came back, applied it, and got a result. They can't feel it
Right.
the way we talking about it, the same way when you're trying to give your kid advice. and you're trying to help them avoid a pain point, you like, make sure you don't do this. And they haven't felt where you coming from because you already messed it up and got the pain, but you speaking like, man, I'm really trying to help you. They feel where you coming from, but they can't fear the pain. They haven't had it yet, right? So sometimes, huh?
Don't touch the stove. Don't touch the stove. How they say, don't touch
Right?
the
You're like,
stove.
I know heat.
You know.
You don't know
Mm-hmm.
heat. You're gonna be missing
Yeah.
flesh. This is gonna be really bad. I'm trying to tell you. And it's like it glows orange. Like that's a cool orange glow. I just gotta touch it. It's drawing me in like a moth. Then it's like But
Mm-hmm.
some stuff has irreversible consequences. But on the flip side, the beautiful irreversible concept of knowledge is no one could take it from you. I use this example when I'm talking about self-construction in my courses and when I talk about financial growth. Can I make you stop speaking English right now? Can I make you stop
No.
driving? Right? Those are
No.
in your brain, bro. You feel me? So when you get knowledge like real estate, like stocks, like how to write grammatically and communicate how we're talking, when you purposefully give yourself these skills, deliberately self-construct, this is where I talk about removal of competition earlier. It's not so much the removal of competition. Now it's just like, who could really stop you? If I go to the gym and I can only lift 135, but I stay in there long enough to lift 225, when I go in there at 225 strength, no one can make me not be able to lift it. And it's the same thing
Mm-hmm.
with mental weight, and that's what I feel like, when it comes to books, knowledge, reading, understanding, and like you were just saying, the benefit of grabbing and getting knowledge, it's just it's a way that we have to, as writers, kind of make sure that a person knows where we're going to take them beneficially at the beginning so that they could keep going. And that's why some books have like the introduction or the dedication or the back matter to show you what this journey is going to be worth as you take it, so that you can make that decision of like, is it going to be worth it to spend the time it's going to take to read it.
So let me the difficulty with, I think, knowledge that I've learned too, and I can speak to you and ask you this question. Where do you get the motivation for application? A lot of times people have knowledge, but they don't necessarily apply it or don't know how to apply what they've learned and all that stuff. How are you motivated to apply the things that you learn, and how do you get your readers to apply the
Okay,
knowledge
so
that you give?
two-part question. First one for me is like the topics I told you about. It's pretty mandatory. It's like I get the motivation to apply half the stuff I read because I just don't want to be broke. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be sad. I have to solve my problem. It's like I'm looking for instruction manuals to life. So as soon as I learn something, I'm trying to put it in action because it's gonna better my situation. You know what I mean? I'm coming from a need, learn, do kind of model. So when it's about like application, I don't really get stuck on the application part too much because I went to the knowledge for more info. You know what I mean? But I think I can see where your question would come from, because some people, again, like what I just took a long time to explain, have never had that cause and effect from knowledge. Because I have the experience already of cause and effect from gaining knowledge from another person that I realize now gives me the ability to instruct. This is what my book is really about. It's about the fact that, see this? I'm moving my fingers on purpose, moving my body on purpose. I know how to do these, right? But the power of me to do this is unstoppable. You cannot stop me from moving my body, right? That's what I call a deliberate action thought. A deliberate action thought is the most powerful force on earth because you cannot stop it, right? You can't stop it from happening. You could stop the person in motion, but you could not stop them from moving. So what I'm saying is, if I take that power and then I add to it through self-construction, learning more movements, more things to know, more things to do, more ways to make money, who can stop me from now? That's what makes me apply knowledge.
Word.
Knowing that. And how do I get people to do what I'm saying? If you look and read Stay Broke, the overall message in there is think for yourself. Throughout all that knowledge, when you get to the end, he says, think for yourself. And it's throughout the whole book that he's gaining knowledge from other people that he is now taking, and you're seeing them have the benefit of what he's learning from his teachers. And so now you're seeing what knowledge does to a person through their experiences. Hopefully that shows you, as you put yourself in Josh's shoes, not that just Josh could do it, but that you could do it because he's telling you about something that in a fictional story is a real life thing. So maybe you'll do it because you saw him have success with it, like a person you might have never seen have success with it, because now you have vicarious experience. I can say that's probably the biggest way that's probably the biggest way I help people take an action that I'm trying to teach them is vicarious experience, either taking them on a story, a journey, or an example of it working that then shows them it working, and then showing them how the person that did it is no different than them. It wasn't a special skill. It wasn't that they were more miraculous, more smarter than you. They just knew something different than you. That's why I ask people, what's the biggest difference between the rich and the poor? They're like, money. I'm like, no, money, knowledge. You both have the same situation. They just know how to do something after they get the money that you haven't learned yet. Once you learn that thing, there's nothing stopping you from being able to do the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Let that marinate. You know, what else you working
Yes,
on now? I
sir.
seen you just dropped the Marvel Essence.
So the thing about that is I'm actually I should post more, but I'm working on things like every day I have an article, at least one. That's on, so you can go in Essence and see my, my writing. But just those like I like really promoting those longer form articles, those that took more time and those think pieces and stuff. But I have some on essence.com every day, at least 2 pieces and all that stuff too. And I do the art column for Creative Loafing once a month as well too. That's kind of like an overview of all the art happenings in Atlanta. Um, Sometimes I interview an artist or a curator or something like that. And then I write for Thrillist as well too. That's a food and travel and lifestyle website. Um, so I write about the best restaurants in the city, where to go if you trying to go on a date for Valentine's Day, or what's the best place to drive through if you're trying to like have a getaway and all that stuff too. So I really enjoy doing that because that's another muscle. So I like writing about food, travel, and lifestyle because it's interesting because I actually learn more about what to do and things that may be in this city that I may not be knowledgeable about though. So I I definitely enjoy doing that. And then I have my the Love Above podcast, which is
Uh,
dropping soon too. It's about Black art, and I'll be doing like a kind of like a one-on-one format, kind of like this. But I'm talking to creatives, fashion designers, artists, gallery owners, curators, things like that. So that's the next big endeavor that I have. So I'm really excited for the people to
no,
see
all
that
right.
and
So
be
we
able to
got a
listen to
great
that too.
question here too. It
So
says, how do you feel about the Chat GPT stealing all our professions? I'll let you go first. I know. I'll let you go first.
are you asking me? Um, So we kind of what we started this conversation about is about emotional and human connection. And I think even no matter how well constructed a article from ChatGPT or AI may be written, there's no way to have that human connection, because it's not coming from a human or from a, experience like that. You input information to this app and then they spew it out and all that stuff. So the only way, you know, they can connect with you, I guess. And I think that it's cool if it's a news piece, because there's no like emotional, there's no emotional component to that. But sometimes it is too, because if you see a news piece about somebody that may have gotten a child that may have gotten killed or something like that, you may have a child that you lost. So it's the story can maybe resonate with some people, but when you talk about like books or novels or self-help and things like that, so I think it's just difficult for Chat GPT to fully express the human emotion because it's not really coming from a human as well too. And I think that in terms of convenience, there's going to be a big market for it, a real big market for it, but I don't think it should overtake actual writers, actual authors, actual people that, you know, spend time and, you know, like I keep going to interviews because I think that's the most intimate form of journalism, interviewing someone. How is that going to work with ChatGPT? How are you going to, you know, understand like, okay, when I was talking to this person, Mark really stressed the most about finance. He's more passionate about financial knowledge and all that stuff. How do I know to make that a bulk of the piece if I'm a app? You know what I'm saying? Like only a human would know a thing like that. So I think in terms of the information, you can probably still get it with ChatGPT, but the quality of what you're reading and the quality of what a person is seeing and putting out, ChatGPT isn't going to be able to fully
No,
execute that as well as a
that
human
I'm
being
right
could.
there with
You
you.
know.
I kind of have a couple of thoughts about this.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is I can't wait till we hurry up and get to a place where we insert some mechanism that's the same as plagiarism in place. Like movies and stuff have like
Mm-hmm.
ratings and stuff. I need it to start being some type of law or regulation. It's very gray right now. It's very gray right now. There's no sort of plagiarism where it's like I used Chat GPT and I don't have to say I did. Right? There's no one has to say that right now. You can write a whole book or a whole article using Chat GPT and you don't have to admit it. I can't wait to get to that place. Second thing is realistically, you know, your question is how do we feel about it? I have to say I feel respectfully the same way that a man that used to run the elevator does. You know, or the cashier at a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant now they have the automatic order your own stuff, right? Or taxi companies or hotel people, like it's tech coming for everybody. So now that it's coming to writing, right? How can we get mad when there was people that lost their jobs and positions to some form of technological advancement before we did, right? And then my last thought is, like you said, I think that we're still going to be able in this computerized digital artificial intelligence world. I think it's actually going to in the long run help us because as human beings, we're going to value each other more. Right now, there's an overcompensation and the devaluation of us with all this artificial intelligence, with all this computerized companies and businesses trying to make more profit by eliminating the people. I even seen the other day where they're taking it into movies. Like Keanu Reeves has a clause in his contracts to where you can't digitally alter him in movies, right? Because his whole point was look at an
Mm-hmm.
avatar. If you get a movie like Avatar where you can motion capture a face, you add in deep fake, you add in voice software, what makes it now from you creating just artificial, the most popular actor is not even a real person because it can make any facial expression it needs to, right? So even they are in jeopardy of losing their craft because he said one of the movies that he was in when before he made his deal, they put a digital tear on his face. So he didn't have to actually cry, but part of his essence as an artist, he wanted to be able to do his authentic tear, right? So it's coming for
Mm-hmm.
everybody, but I think in the long run, it's actually going to bring us together because we'll value each other more. We'll have a more appreciation, like you said, for something that has that human connection, that emotion, that essence, that even you might be able to fake the words, we'll still be able to read it and know that a person didn't write that.
Right.
I hope that
Mm-hmm.
uh, answers your question. She did a great. Thank you for asking us
Mm-hmm.
that. You know, we get fired up about that joint.
Yeah, because it's tough though, man. I'm thinking about the person that may have gone to school for a particular craft and worked their entire life doing this craft, and now they just lose their job after a little while because there's a robot that can do it for them. You know what I'm saying? So I understand the frustration, you know, having that uncertainty that, you know, this thing that I've dedicated my whole life to, it could be gone like this, and it's not really through any fault of my own. You know, it's because technology, you know, and has advanced to a point to where I
No, I
can,
think
you
it's
know,
gonna
I'm
come to
replaceable.
a good
You
point
know.
though because they'll. That's why I say I can't wait till they put that mechanism in place that makes you have to distinguish between what happened here, because I think we're going
Mm-hmm.
to balance it out. Right now, it's novel. Right now, it's like, oh, look, that robot made a painting. Oh man, look, that robot wrote this. Oh, look, that robot is doing the movie. And in a minute, when it all fades, we're gonna switch and we're gonna say, yeah, but that didn't take no effort, so we don't care, right? We're gonna be
Right.
like, oh yeah, he made that painting, but yeah, but it don't matter. He got access to all available information. It didn't take him no time. He didn't buy the paint, sit down, paint it. I want to buy effort now. That's what's gonna start being premium. That person sat there, had the experience, had their thoughts, wrote them out. We're gonna once the mechanism in place where you have to distinguish, and there's a way, like, you know how people used to do Photoshop photos, but you couldn't tell if it was Photoshop or not. But then eventually, like the courts and stuff were able to see the pixelization and how something was Photoshop. So now it's like you can't go into court or you can't come somewhere with an edited video because people are smart enough to find the edit, right? So I think now the same thing's going to happen when it comes to the AI. At a point, they'll get to a point where it's like, well, even if you try to lie, we can find the Chat GPT or whatever software digital footprint in your thing and expose you. So unless you sat there and really wrote it, sat there really painted it, sat there really recorded it and edited it yourself, we're not going to buy it. And I think those things will rise to the premium and then be the most expensive stuff, and then we'll still be on top.
Let's hope so, man. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. You know, I'm not, and I think just in general, the time that I've put into
John
my
Henry,
craft, I can do it better.
yeah, you're that John Henry, you can do it better than the machine.
Right, you know, like my heart may explode at the end. You feel me? But you know, like
yeah, I think the same thing. You know, I feel like they can't be us, and they were made by us. So that's why you see me post about it so much. I'm not opposed to technology. I'm a tech guy. I'm a nerd, man. I like tech stuff, but I'm also like very, very human. Like I'm very us. That's why I do self-construction and stuff. So, you know, I want people to see kind of where it's at. And some people really don't pay attention to these kind of things. They catch it on the fringe, right? Like, oh, AI, and they look at it like it's cool. For my audience, I try to keep you on pace with how things are going and how they're coming about, and my opinion on it, so that we kind of stay in that middle ground where we know what's going on, but we also appreciate each other, like on our journey through this advancement, you know, because it's very real. It's very real. But in the long run, I think it'll be beneficial because there's applications I can see for it helping us, right?
Yeah, I know it helped me. You know, just like again, going for news articles, like that would be very convenient, especially with my workload. You know, being able to just kind of. But I would probably need to. For me, I would have to plug in the information, get it back, and then re-edit it. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, you know, apply my voice and everything too. For news articles, I can see how a person could kind of lean on that, especially if it's a person that has a heavy workload. But for your like books and, because to me that's plagiarism. Like you didn't write that. You didn't write that. Like I wouldn't feel right with myself putting out a body of work that
No,
I did
100%.
not write.
100%.
Like I'm not the author of this particular.
Girl,
Like,
I seen an article.
I didn't write.
I seen an ad, and it was so sad because it was from somebody I kind of respected. This guy has a few audiobooks on Audible and has a pretty decent following of financial education and stuff. And he teaches one passive income stream is that he published so many like kind of quick books that weren't long. They were just like they really were just there to be just a downloadable product income stream, not really to really inform, you know. And so now he's turned another income stream into helping people get published and doing their audiobooks. And now he's taking it to a level where the ad I read the other day was become a best-selling author, make your first 500K with your book, and never have to write a word. I was like, oh. I was like, what are you doing? You're gonna pay him to write, or like pay him to have the AI write it, because that's what he's about to do. He's about to take your money. He's about to have the AI write. He's about to come back, give you a little cover art, put it on here, and then you're gonna sit back. And I mean, that's cool if all you were in it for was the money, right? Not the impact, not the connection, not to make people's lives better. And you just wanted the title of being like, I'm an author. But when you by yourself, you're gonna feel that little hole inside that knows that is, yeah, like you said, and nobody else might not never know, but you'll know that you're not connecting with your audience, you're not helping them, and that you didn't really get to, you know, experience what it actually feels like to be an author, right? Like we know what that feels like. Like I said, I got a book going right now. I reread what I wrote, I write some more, I add some more, and I might not come back to it for like a day, you know? because I'm thinking about
Mm-hmm.
some more stuff that I wrote during the day or the next day, you know? Is that kind of like how it is with your articles? Like you're coming back and
A lot of times too, like I can sit kind of what you said earlier about, you do a lot of research, just a little bit of work. It don't really take me long to write. Like it doesn't take me long to, like from the time I sit down and actually write my article to the time I'm done, it may be like an hour and a half. If it's long form, 4 hours, something like that. You know what I'm saying? But um I kind of just, again, when you research, like I don't have a lot of stuff in front of me. I'll research what I want to write about, and I'll just jot down ideas for it. You know what I mean, jot down things about it, what I want to know, what I think people want to know, and it's kind of just like that's how Eminem writes his lyrics. He says that he'll have a bar on the top side of the page, another bar on the bottom. It's not just like line, and then I can, condense these ideas and be like, okay, this is what the main point of this article I want it to be, and I want to vaguely express what I'm going to write about in that first paragraph, and then the meat of the article, I'm elaborating on what I said in the beginning.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like the bing bang bong method. The bing, what you're gonna talk about, the bang, what you're talking about, then the bong, you want to bring everything together and conclude it. So that's kind of how I write. And like, it doesn't matter if it's 3 paragraphs or if it's 300 pages. You can still do the same thing. It's just everything is longer. Your bing is going to be 3 pages pertaining to 1 paragraph. So that's the easiest. I take that as real simple, the bing bang bong method. The first paragraph, what you're talking about, the middle, elaborate on it, then the ball, you want to tie everything together. So it doesn't really take me long to write, but it takes me a while to research and really get what I want to write about. That's where the most time comes into play. Once I know what I want to write about, once I have those ideas, it's
yeah. I
quick,
think
man.
that's
You
the
know.
beauty of what people will still feel, that the effort, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, the research, the time that you're like putting your ideas together and saying, but how do I want to say this? But how do I want to say that? Where the AI just gets to be like all available knowledge, incredible fast typing speed. Da, 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 I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna feel that. Da, 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 I'm done. There's not gonna be a bing. There's not gonna be a bang. There's not gonna be a bong. It's gonna be linear. And then when it thinks about the audience, it's really gonna be. I mean, I don't see how it can do anything more than, I guess, they have informative, persuasive, and what's the other one? I can't. It's 3 types of writing: informative, persuasive, and one more. But I don't know how it can't do anything more than informative or persuasive. Like yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's. I think it's always gonna feel informative. Even if even if you're
Right.
writing a story, it's kind of gonna. It'll be like how those paintings go. You know how they do those paintings and they start like putting all the stuff in the painting. You there's gonna
Mm-hmm.
still be something about us, the soul, that you're not gonna be able to make no digital soul. So you're gonna keep making that digital brain. You're not gonna be able to make a digital soul. Like just even thinking about fear or impermanence, right? Like we gonna pass away sometime, or we've experienced loss from someone else, right? Like we live with that awareness. How can it even write for that type of nuance when you could get plugged and plugged back in? Like, you know what I mean? That's a subtle
Mm-hmm.
part that I don't know how you're gonna fake it for them to realize that when we talk to each other, we talk from the ability to understand, and that we know we're not always gonna be here, and that we love each other, and we have like that in common. Where you could keep going or upload yourself to the web or whatever you're gonna do to never stop existing, right? You That soul part right there is not gonna be there to kind of give it its flavor, man. To give it its care for
Mm-hmm.
you to feel how I feel, because I think that's what resonates with us in movies. When you watch the movie and you're not even there, whether it's a scary movie or a happy movie, the movie that make you cry. You know what I'm saying? When my man Jack fall off the door in Titanic or something like that, like you ain't in the cold water, you ain't him, but when that man starts sinking, you just like, dog,
Mm-hmm.
I felt that, like, you know what I
Oh,
mean? Then
right. I thought it was gonna
yeah,
make it.
that's where it's
You
gonna be,
know.
man. But well, bro, I love you, bro. Thank you, man. This was awesome, bro. Like awesome, awesome, awesome. You always come with the deep insight. Like I like the Bing Bang Bong. Like that was. Hey, I'm gonna take that little gem right there, man. And I hope other people can incorporate that into their writing.
Got you, man.
I hope everybody got like a lot of good information from y'all this morning. Does anybody have any more questions? It's just been such a great morning and conversation. Man, you know, the thing that I was really thinking about as we were just talking about this even more so is just that as writers, as people who speak to other people in, you know, in our words and keep them going, like, man, we do something to the world that is like so vital and necessary, man. You know what I mean? Like we create. I read a book one time, and in the introduction, the man said something so beautiful. It was kind of what you were talking about earlier. He said, books allow us to have conversations with people that we'll never meet. You know what I'm saying? How often are these live streams? On my page right now, I have a lot of the upcoming live streams. I probably kind of do maybe 2 a week. And so if you go to my page, you'll see all the upcoming interviews for February and March. What I was saying was, and thank you for your question. What I was saying was, I love that idea. I remember reading this book, opened it up, and the first thing in the introduction said, books allow us to have conversations with people that we'll never meet. And I think that's what writing is so beautiful, because I can read from somebody who, you know, 100 years ago wrote this book, or someone who experiences Read Me or Stay Broke. They have a conversation with me that they don't need to meet me to be able to learn from me. They don't have to reach me to be able to get the information that I want to give to them, you know. And that's why I listen to audiobooks too. Sometimes I listen to audiobooks and I read books, because I'm like, I get to soak in what this person has been trying to say to the world, and I get to listen, you know. What do you think about that? Oh, just about the idea that, like, even us, we get to meet Viktor Frankl. He was in Nazi Germany, right? But we get to listen to Viktor Frankl talk about the man's search for meaning and the deeper part of life, and then we still living here right now, and we get to still apply that principle and awaken that part of our mind.
Yeah, kind of what I was talking about earlier too, about a person doing 15 years of research or 15 years of work on something, and they put in a book, and you can get all of their knowledge in 2 hours, 2-3 hours. You know what I'm saying? I think that's an underutilized, you know, resource that us as, you know, African Americans, we have, you know, people in general, but I'm more kind of on our community too. That's something that, you know, we need to utilize a little better. And as you're a parent, to stress those things on the next generation too, you know, because I think just with technology, we're getting away from these, you know, going outside and playing and, you know, reading books and things that we grew up on that was just natural to us, because we didn't necessarily have certain, you know, access to certain things too. So I think it's good to, you know, utilize what technology now, but I also think we need to stress the importance of, you know, these natural things that we used to do that made us who we were and molded us into the people that we are too. But when I read the Daily Stoic, man, like I read that, Ryan Holiday talks about how, you know, like you said, you're having conversations and thoughts with people that you'll never meet, and some of the greatest minds in the world. You're getting to actually look at, you know, their day-to-day lives, what they thought about, you know, the work that they did and all that stuff. And I think that's invaluable, man. Like I get to know, you know, how Dr. King used to construct, you know, because I think we think of Dr. King as, you know, a civil rights leader, a great man, everything too, but he was an amazing, you know, orator too, an amazing writer too. You know, when you look at, you know, the things that he said and how he wrote and all that stuff, I like to study that. And I get to, you know, see that when you know, read his writings and read, you know, so it's just, it's important, man. Like we have so much knowledge at our fingertips, man. It's just, that's what I think the most important thing about technology is that access to so many different things that the people before us did not have, and need to utilize it the right way, you know, while still maintaining the human aspect of life as well.
Like you said, like being able to sit down and really read is, when it's unforced, there's something magical in that process, man. Like when you're not reading for school, or you're not reading like an assignment or something, and you really sit down and you're like quiet. You know, I read at 5 o'clock in the morning. I go to the gym at 4. I come back, I read at 5. and it's peaceful, it's still, it's quiet, it's just me and the words, and my mind is going, and it's so beautiful because it even taps into like it taps into this part that makes me feel like superpower. And I'm gonna tell you what it is. It's like, all right, do me a favor. Right now, everybody's on here. Think of your address. All right. Now, think about your bedroom, like your room, where your bed is, where the windows are, where your dresser is. Right. Now, these two things happen. You heard your voice in your brain without anyone else hearing you, and you saw that room like you were there. Those are two amazing to me brain powers that we have. To be able to have inner dialogue in our mind and hear our voice as loud as if we were speaking, but no one be able to hear us. And then to be able to use our imagination to see things with the clarity of sight that are only in our minds are so underappreciated. And when I read, I get to do those in a way that makes me feel the essence of both of those things. You know what I mean? And I just love that.
Yeah, man. What I just want to say too, I definitely appreciate, this second edition of our conversation. You know what I'm saying? I always uh follow and I support everything that you do, man. I really enjoy and I'm happy and I'm proud that you're doing this as well too, because again, people, we need this type of knowledge and they need to see people, like you, that look like you, doing this too, because it gives them hope and inspiration as well too. So yeah, man, I definitely appreciate
Man, I
doing
love you,
this and I
bro.
appreciate you
Thank
doing
you
this
for
for
being
us
on
too.
this morning, man. Thank you so much. And we gotta do again like March, April, because this technology gonna keep popping, and you're gonna still have great articles coming out. So I want to talk about some more
Yeah,
articles, and I want to talk about some of the new advancements that we see coming up as we continue to kind of track this this growth and this pattern that we're kind of on in this time in the world right now. And thank you everybody for being on. Appreciate
I
you taking some
appreciate it,
time early
man.
this morning to join us, ask your questions, and give us some of your valuable time and attention. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, my brother. Love you, man.
I
See you
love
next
you too,
time.
man. You be safe, bro. All right, man.